Thank you. Let's go ahead and call the Talent City Council regular meeting of September 4th, 2024 to order. Roll call, please.
Councilor Collet is not present. Councilor Nemro.
Here.
Councilor Grader is not present. Councilor Pacizo. Here. Councilor Byers.
Here.
Councilor Farah Miller.
Here.
And Mayor Ayers Flood.
Here.
Mayor Uniform.
Thank you, Hector. Next item on the agenda is additions or corrections to the agenda. Anybody? I think you mentioned you might want to speak to parks.
I'm sorry, we've talked.
Yeah.
A bit further about that. I would love to have a moment to speak to agenda item 9.2 before you open it, when we get to that point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did I remember that right, or did you want to do it after I
Do
open
it
it?
afterwards. but
Okay, let's do it that way then.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Because I think I remembered it wrong. Yeah, my apologies. Council Pastizo.
Well, I just have a question at the very bottom, upcoming council meetings. Does the Tura and City Council meeting really be the 13th of Friday?
I think it's the 18th.
Yeah, I know what that.
It's the 18th.
Thank you for the correction, Councilor.
I think I need a pair. I do want to add an item to the agenda, item 9.3, if we could please, and that is a proposed letter from council to the Public Utilities Commission on behalf of a residents group request. So we'll talk about it, that PUC, letter to the PUC at 9.3. Is there consent for that change? Is there any objections? All right, seeing none, I have consent. Item number 3 is community announcements. Staff?
Okay, I have a few announcements, Mayor and council members. Upcoming events on September 7th at the Mountain View Estates. We have a dedication ceremony. Mountain View Estates is becoming a fire-wise community. We've been working with District 5 and others to meet that criteria. It's a celebration from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. At Mountain View State. On September 21st is Bear Creek Stewardship Day from 8 a.m. to noon. It's a cleanup event starting at Lynn Newbury Park. Also that same day is the grand opening at Talent Maker City. For event details, visit talentmakercity.org. October 5th is the Harvest Festival. For more information, visit talentbusinessalliance.com.
Org.
.org.
Or .org.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Talentbusinessalliance.org. Information regarding the Aedes aegypti mosquito has been distributed to the community in various methods, including a door hanger, press release, email, bulletin boards, and social media. And you'll be hearing more about that from the district representative. Reader board station near schools. Remind residents to slow down at school zones. Children return to work to school this week. Pacific Power will host a community meeting to discuss how they're working to enhance reliability and safety during wildfire season. That event will be on September 11th from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Talent Library. And I just want to thank the city reporter who put the agenda out while he was in Boston.
That's some
Thank you.
dedication. Thank you. Counselor Perry Miller.
Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt, but Hector, my computer says that it's running low and that it's not plugged in. Can we die? Yeah, this one. But it's gotta be on, right?
All right. I just want to say shout out to Hector. Thank you for working out all these technical issues. We are in a temporary location and our sound system has been moved over here. It doesn't like this place as much as it likes that other place. And we really appreciate you working so hard to accommodate us in this really transitionary time. All right. So any other community announcements? Okay, the next item on the agenda is speakers heard on non-agenda items. There are none. Okay. This is also the time where I take my last speaker request forms for agenda items as well. So if you have an agenda item that you want to speak to, this is the time to submit the last point to submit your request form. All right, so we're moving past that one then and moving on to public presentations. 5.1. It's presentation by Jackson County Vector Control on Aedes aegypti mosquitoes. Staff report.
Mayor, members of the council, we have representatives here from Jackson County Vector Control, and I believe Public Health, who have a presentation to make to you this evening on this new mosquito who has been located in Jackson County to talk about what actions they're taking to and to make the community more aware of this mosquito, why it's of concern, and what actions citizens can take to help bring this mosquito under control.
Great, thank you. And if you could state your name and city for the record. And then Hector, can I ask you to close the door so it might improve the sound in here a little bit?
Yes, my name is Andrew Parton. I'm a vector ecologist with the Jackson County Vector Control District in Central Point. Can everyone hear me okay? Well, first and foremost, I just want to thank the council for giving us the opportunity to come here and speak about this issue. This is the best way to inform and educate everyone about this, and it's just kind of part of this ongoing public education campaign that's going along with this. As was previously stated, I'm sure most of you are already aware that we, the Jackson County Vector Control District, recently detected an invasive mosquito species here in Talent. And it is, in fact, the first time that it's ever been found in Oregon. It is the Aedes aegypti mosquito. It's not trying to switch slides. Thank you, Hector. So just a little background about Aedes aegypti. They are native to Africa, but they've been well established in the southeastern United States since approximately the 1600s. And since then, Aedes aegypti have really made a big spread westward. And actually the first detection in California came in 2013 near Visalia in the Central Valley. And in 2020, Shasta Mosquito and Vector Control District in Redding, just 150 miles south of here, straight down I-5, detected Aedes aegypti for the first time. And they've been dealing with this mosquito ever since. And in fact, Aedes aegypti are now essentially considered endemic throughout large swaths of Southern and Central California. And this range expansion, we know it's happened for a variety of reasons. But one of the big reasons for this is the unintentional movement of items containing Aedes aegypti eggs, which are very resilient, and I'll speak to that a little more here shortly. So a big question is, what makes Aedes aegypti different from our native mosquito species? There's a number of things, but one of the biggest ones is that unlike our native mosquito species, Aedes aegypti feed preferentially on people. So whereas our native species would rather bite a bird or any variety of small to medium-sized mammal, Aedes aegypti prefers to feed and bite people. So as a result of that, they live in and around residential areas, urban, suburban environments. They feed and rest both indoors and outdoors. They bite very aggressively and are actually most active during the day, which is also very different from most of our native species. And this puts them or brings them into contact with their preferred host, humans, more frequently. And something else that's very interesting about Aedes aegypti is that they actually glue their eggs or adhere their eggs to the sides of essentially any small water holding container around people's homes. So anywhere around someone's home that accumulates even small amounts of water can be a larval habitat for Aedes aegypti. So, we're not talking about some of the bigger sources, irrigation ditches or, orchards or anything like that. We're really talking more about the things that people are filling up with their water hose every day, the saucers underneath plant pots, jars, fountains, bird baths, clogged rain gutters, things like that. Things that most people don't even think about. And these eggs are very good at withstanding desiccation for long periods of time when water isn't available. And we know that this is kind of dependent on a variety of environmental factors, primarily humidity. But we know from the science that these eggs can last anywhere from months to years. They can remain viable until water fills that container, inundates the eggs, and the eggs hatch. They do not disperse far on their own. They're weak flyers. 50 to 100 meters, is the average flight range of an adult. So, you're talking just, 200-300 feet on average. So even though they don't disperse far on their own, they are very good at dispersing from yard to yard. So, places like over here in Old Town Talent, where we have a lot of houses packed in, very close together, Aedes aegypti are very good at just kind of tic-tac-toeing through those houses, finding little places to lay eggs. And that's essentially how they spread, short distances at a time. And this last point is an important one. We've put this press release out, and we've really not been super happy with some of the coverage, some of the headlines. It's been, a little sensationalized, we feel like. So I want to make it clear that these mosquitoes have the potential, again, I will say again, the potential to transmit certain diseases. So we're talking about dengue, yellow fever, chikungunya, Zika virus. However, Aedes aegypti are not born with these pathogens. So to obtain them, they must first bite someone who is already infected with one of these diseases and then go bite someone else. So really what we would be looking at is a situation where, perhaps someone travels abroad, contracts one of these diseases, comes back home, and gets bit here at home by an Aedes aegypti mosquito. And, if that mosquito goes and bites someone else, then that is how these things can spread locally or be locally acquired by Aedes aegypti mosquitoes. But we know that the risk of any of these diseases to our residents here is currently very, very, very low. Really with Aedes aegypti right now, we're talking more about a potential major biting nuisance. But it is important to point out that, like I said, they do have this ability to transmit these diseases, but some of these headlines, mosquito carrying deadly pathogens found in Talent, it's not really what we wanted, or how we wanted that covered. So a little bit about our first detection here. It occurred on July 23rd. A single suspected Aedes aegypti female was captured in one of our routine mosquito traps that we run in the same location here in Talent every week during the mosquito season, typically April through September. It's essentially down at the corner of Rapp and Wagner. And like I said, this trap gets run every week, checked once a week. Like I said, during that mosquito season. And with this particular trap check on July 23rd, I did notice one mosquito that just looked a little different than the others. Pulled it out so I could examine it closer. And what you're seeing here, this picture is a microscope view of essentially the first look I had at this mosquito. And she's damaged. She's missing an antenna. She's missing some scales and some other features that we're just about to talk about that would really make her a slam dunk to identify or make her easy to identify. But a few days after this mosquito was captured, we took some good pictures and we sent photos down to a couple of mosquito and vector districts in California that deal with a lot of Aedes aegypti, Shasta mosquito and vector control district being one of them. And they quickly got back to us and said, yeah, that's an Aedes aegypti. So before I go to this next slide, I brought some specimens here, and these are not the original. These are some of the ones that have come thereafter. But
Are they Talent residents?
Are they local?
they are.
Yeah.
They are. Well, like I said, right now they reside in our lab at Central Point, but they were local residents.
We need them to state their city director.
But just to give you an idea of the size and the scale. And so this slide, and this is important because people are going to be seeing these, and as far as mosquitoes go, they are fairly identifiable, and they're actually a pretty striking looking mosquito compared to a lot of our native species. But as you see, they're very small, highly contrasting black and white. Like I said, to me, someone who looks at tens of thousands of mosquitoes every year, this mosquito looks a lot different to me.
Yeah.
And really, like I said, you'll see here on the top of the thorax or the back of this mosquito, it's the classic ID feature, which are white scales in the form of a lyre, like a lyre harp, the musical instrument. And I've inserted this nice little picture of a lyre harp here just to give you a reference. But most people, when they're talking about identifying Aedes aegypti, they're talking about looking for that white lyre pattern on the back. And if you have a good specimen in hand and you look closely, I mean, you can actually kind of make out that pattern on their back. But like I said, the white lyre shape and then the two white lines down the center of the back there are the classic ID feature or features. So in response to this first detection, what we did and what we are still doing is a lot of surveillance using mosquito traps. So we're using a couple different types of traps that are more or less specific for Aedes aegypti. Some of them catch other mosquito species as well, but we're using mosquito traps that we know to be attractive and efficient at capturing Aedes aegypti. And you can see one of our technicians here setting up what is called a BG Sentinel trap, which is more or less the gold standard for monitoring Aedes aegypti populations. And the traps that we're using, they utilize a variety of attractants, compressed CO2, artificial human scents, and some of them use actually just water that's infused with organic material and grass. So some of these traps are designed to attract gravid females or females that are looking to lay eggs, and some of them are designed to capture host-seeking females. So, the CO2, that artificial human scent, mosquitoes that are excuse me, that are looking to take a blood meal. And at this point, I think we're probably just over 100 trap locations in Northwest Talent. And this next slide here will give you, these are not trap locations, but these are all individual these are the individual trap locations where we have detected Aedes aegypti adults. So as of today, we have collected a total of 122 Aedes aegypti from 25 trap locations in Talent. And like I said, we have set traps in approximately 100 locations in this part of Talent. But like I said, these are the trap locations that have produced Aedes aegypti. So you can see essentially the southern boundary is, Wagner Creek, Rapp Road, and the detections go north all the way to, Roy, Gibson Street. But like I said, it has definitely been this northwest corner of Talent. And we're starting to kind of branch out now, trap some other areas of Talent. We're kind of just starting that process. But so far, this is the area that has produced Aedes aegypti. So as far as controlling them goes, is eradication possible? Can we get rid of them? We know from history, from especially all of these new infestations that have occurred in California, that Aedes aegypti are extremely hard to totally eradicate once they become established. There's a number of reasons for this. As I mentioned earlier, they reproduce in very small, cryptic, hard to find locations. Even for trained personnel, going in someone's backyard, it can be difficult to find every single little place that may be holding enough water to produce Aedes aegypti. Also, females use a strategy called skip oviposition, which is also unique to Aedes aegypti, whereby a female generally will not lay all of her eggs in one container. So instead of laying her entire clutch in one spot, she will typically lay a few here, a few there, go to a new container, lay a few there, essentially trying to maximize the chances that some of those eggs are going to survive and produce adults. They rest in very, very, like I said, hard to reach, out of the way areas, a lot of little nooks and crannies back in these neighborhoods. We also know that we could be looking at potential insecticide resistance with a lot of these mosquitoes because of the adult mosquito control products that they have likely been exposed to as they were brought up. Those genetics follow those populations. So wherever these mosquitoes originated from, and we actually are doing, we don't have the results yet, but we have sent some samples to Yale University to actually get the genetic testing done. So we will have a pretty good idea of where this population that we have here in Talent originated from. But like I said, so there are potential insecticide resistance issues. So with that in mind, what we need from the public, what we are focusing on is what we refer to in mosquito control as physical control. So what we want to do is physically control those sources. So we're talking about finding mosquito sources, reducing them, eliminating them wherever possible, which means that cooperation from Talent residents, in these neighborhoods that we know are going to be impacted. It's going to be critical if we're going to have a shot at controlling these mosquitoes. So what we need is for, like I said, we're doing neighborhood door-to-door canvassing right now, handing out flyers, door hangers, trying to talk to as many people as possible in these areas where these mosquitoes have been detected and educate them on what we need from them. And like I said, the biggest thing is we need residents to check for sources of standing water around their home. We need them to drain those sources or freshen them regularly, scrub them. Even if you dump a water source, like I said, those aegypti eggs could be left behind. So we're talking about dumping, scrubbing. And we're not saying that folks, can't have, plant pots and things out. But what is key is that people understand that, this mosquito is here and some behavior, modification is going to be necessary to control it. So like I said, folks can, they can have those items in their yard. It's not like we're trying to take those away, but it's important that people understand that they need to be dumping them regularly. Like I said, freshening that water up. Don't let the water stand for too long in any one place. Yes, sir. They are visible to the naked eye, but like I said, even for trained personnel, it can be hard to spot them because they literally just look like specks of dirt. So they're not, you have to look really closely. And like I said, they're not easy to tell, but you can see them. Yes, sir. So the other thing we need is for, as we're going door to door, whenever possible, we're asking residents to grant our technicians permission to come onto the property, look around, look for, sources of standing water and just help to educate them basically because I think a lot of people, when they're thinking about mosquitoes, they're still thinking about the bigger sources. Most folks don't realize the little tiny water sources that we are talking about. So it's helpful for us to be able to go onto the property, take the property owner around and just kind of point things out to them. So they really get an idea of, what we're talking about, what we need them to be checking. Also we're asking that, if requested, that property owners allow our technicians to, to place some additional mosquito traps, because like I said, that's still something we're doing for ongoing monitoring. And people we've already been doing that for a month, and talent residents have been great. I'm also a talent homeowner and resident, so I'm not bragging, but like I said, it's a good town, it's good people, and everybody's been very nice and welcoming. And we've been able to essentially put mosquito traps, wherever, we've asked folks to let us put them. So that's been great. So hopefully that can continue. And also, we want folks to know that we exist. Jackson County has a vector control district. We're working every year to monitor mosquito populations. And, typically we're testing for West Nile and equine encephalitis and things like that. This is new for us. But we want folks to know that we are here, we are available. If you're in your yard, particularly during the day, and you're getting bit by mosquitoes, please let us know. I mean, it's interesting because we've talked to a lot of folks out there who have said, oh yeah, we've been getting bit by mosquitoes. It's odd, in our backyard. We've noticed that we've been getting bit, and that doesn't usually happen, but people don't, know about us, or for whatever reason don't call us. So we want to let folks know that it's happening. Let us know so we can send a technician out and, try to find where it's coming from and eliminate those sources around your home. So like I said, that's the big ask. And the last slide, I think we had to convert this to a PDF. So unfortunately, this video, I know a few folks here have already gotten to see it, but the video won't work. But it was a video from PBS, little 4-minute video about, and if you want to look at it later, you can just Google PBS Aedes aegypti. It's their Deep Look series. Like it's a 4-minute video just about the life cycle of an Aedes aegypti. It's just a good video. But we'll have to forego it here, I think, unfortunately. So, but that is all I have. Any questions?
Counselor Penamara.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. The first one is, as far as carrying diseases, I thought don't all mosquitoes carry diseases. Is this one more likely to carrying different diseases, or just more aggressive in fighting humans more often?
Well, not all mosquitoes carry diseases. I mean, so like our Culex genus mosquitoes here, Culex pipiens, Culex tarsalis, like those are the species that are good at vectoring West Nile, for instance. But in order for them to obtain West Nile, they have to bite a bird that is infected with it.
Right.
So, like I said, typically, it's not something that, all mosquitoes are born with any type of pathogen. They have to feed on an infected host. So the only difference, with this mosquito is that it's, we're not talking about West Nile. We're talking about, like I said, dengue and yellow fever and chikungunya and Zika, which for a lot of people, whoa, those are some pretty, and those are serious diseases. And there are places in the country, Florida, Texas, Southern California is another good example. Very international populations, very mobile populations, and where they have hundreds or thousands of travel related cases of these diseases every year. And so now that they're also getting Aedes aegypti, they're very, very concerned about local transmission. Whereas like I said, someone comes back, who's infected and gets bit at home by an Aedes aegypti mosquito that then infects somebody else. Like I said, and that, that has happened in other places, but like I said, we know that the risk of that here is very, very low. And even in places where they do have a lot of travel related cases of these diseases and Aedes aegypti, it's still very rare for local transmission. I mean, there are examples where it's happened, but it's very rare.
Counselor Penamara.
Yeah, and you said about cleaning the receptacles regularly. Does that mean daily? Does that mean once a week? And is it soap and water or just rinse them out?
Well, it would not necessarily have to be, I mean, if you can do it daily, that's fantastic. But I mean, I would say at least every 4 or 5 days. The warmer it is, the faster these mosquitoes are going to complete their life cycle. So like I said, the warmer the temperatures, the quicker they're going to go from egg to adult. But I mean, honestly, I would think if people are very good about every, 3, 4, 5 days, checking, dumping, and like I said, and also, like I said, I did mention scrubbing, and you wouldn't necessarily have to use soap, but just a stiff bristled brush, like I said, because those eggs can adhere, they do adhere to the sides of containers. So, if you have something that is, holding those eggs, just dumping the water out is not necessarily going to get rid of. Those eggs are going to hold on. Even if you have larvae in there that you dump, there could be eggs left behind.
Dave?
A couple of questions with reference to saucers under planters. Can you put, I mean, I've seen these sort of cylindrical things where you chip off a part of it and put it in there and it kills the larvae from some mosquitoes. Does that do any good with this kind of mosquito?
It does, and that's actually one of the things. Those are called mosquito dunks, and
Yes.
the active ingredient in those is it's a bacteria, Bacillus thuringiensis israelianus. It's basically a bacteria that's very specific to mosquito and black fly larvae. So, when you put those granules in the water, those mosquitoes ingest, the mosquito larva will ingest those bacterial spores, and it essentially dissolves their stomach lining, kills the larva. But it's great stuff because it is very target specific. And particularly when we're talking about these artificial sources where, I mean, you don't have a lot of other things in that, you don't have a lot of other organisms in there anyways you're concerned about. I mean, you're pretty much just going to have mosquito larvae, but those do work. And we actually, those dunks are one of the things that, we're offering to homeowners. So, I mean, if they're interested in, taking those from as we go door to door, that's one of the things we're handing out. So those can be effective. Yes.
My other question is about heavily chlorinated water like hot tubs and pools. Is that an issue?
Heavily chlorinated water, like in a pool or a jacuzzi, a hot tub that's being properly maintained, should be fine. Yeah, but it's easy for those to get a little unmaintained. We see that a lot, especially with the pools. And at that point, I mean, you can really start breeding a lot of mosquitoes.
Counselor Byers?
I am recalling, it might have been in the. This is a mosquito that loves living inside of houses. And so when you're talking about standing water, I'm thinking about like house plants or stuff. Like, is that something that also needs attention every 3 or 4 days?
That's a good question, and it is. I mean, there's been a lot of research done on, homes in areas where Aedes aegypti is established. Homes that tend to have more indoor potted plants tend to have more Aedes aegypti mosquitoes living indoors. Like I said, and I mean, not any mosquito species can wander inside, but Aedes aegypti, I mean, it's well documented, have a very real persistent tendency to enter homes, rest on the walls, on the ceilings. And like I said, not only rest indoors, but bite people indoors as well. So like I said, that's a good point. Like I said, so if you have standing water, plant saucers or whatever indoors, those could also need attention.
I just want to ask you really quick, so this mosquito does not carry and cannot carry West Nile?
I would imagine if you go back and read the literature, there are probably examples of times when it has been shown that Aedes aegypti can potentially vector West Nile, but it is not, as far as it is not very common at all. So I mean, it is typically not considered a West Nile vector.
Great. All right. Any other questions or comments? Counselor Byers?
It's more of a comment, just bringing this up again. I'm recalling from our earlier presentation of this that you said that gutters on houses, if they are not cleaned, are really great repositories for this mosquito as well.
Yeah, and gutters are, one of those places that even for our technicians, where we can't go door to door with ladders necessarily and check gutters, but yeah, I mean, gutters are one of those sources that are be hard to get to, but we definitely know, like I said, from the research that, yep, like I said, it's gutters can definitely do it. Now, I would say just real quick, I think I mentioned this in the council leadership presentation, but there was a big study they did in Visalia, 4,000 or 5,000 home inspections, and they were categorizing the items where they were finding Aedes aegypti eggs most commonly in order. And like I said, essentially it was saucers underneath potted plants were the number one source. That is where out of these thousands of home inspections they did, that was the most common place to find Aedes aegypti larvae. So saucers underneath potted plants, French drains, ground drains that were not fully drained. Like I said, people are always irrigating and there can be just enough water in those drains. People don't notice it, but like I said, ground drains that are holding, a little bit of water, the second most common source. And the third, they just categorize as miscellaneous containers. So like I said, those jars and pots and buckets and things that, people are errantly filling with the water hose or the sprinklers or, going a little haywire and filling up. Those were the three most common Aedes aegypti sources around people's homes.
So how long should the water have to sit for them to be able to reproduce it? I'm thinking of the gutter, right? I hope we don't have to go scrub all of our gutters every 3 to 5 days with just with brush.
Well, fortunately here in the summer, although we have had some rain recently, we're typically pretty dry. So it's one of those things, maybe in the winter, after once, we're coming through the rainy season, the temperatures are starting to warm up, might be a good idea to climb up there and just make sure that everything's, drained out, all the leaves are cleared out, give it a good scrub, once before the warm weather gets here. Like I said, because typically, we're fortunate here, like a lot of areas, I'm from North Carolina originally. So, I mean, in the summertime, we get little thunderstorms every day, essentially. So, we're always getting those little douses of rain that keep those little containers and places like that filled. But if there's, I guess, one advantage of maybe being so dry here, that could be it. Yeah.
Great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Super informative.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right. Next item on the agenda, item 6.1 is department reports. Staff?
Just 2 quick items. Wanted to report that the audit process has started in the finance department. We've been contacted by the auditor who has been requesting documents. And the finance staff and the finance director in particular are now working with the auditors to prepare the city's annual financials. It's a major undertaking for the finance department. And the other quick report I wanted to give is that you all may know that there was a fire in South Ashland today. In the Highway 5 exit 11 area of the Talent Police Department did respond, mutual aid request there, and Chief Snook stood by at the fire scene and communicated back to us, City Hall and through Hector to put out advisories as our police department was receiving numerous calls. That's all.
Thank you. I have a couple questions for you, Gary. It is nearly the anniversary of the Almeda fire, and it seems like it might be a good time to give a community development recovery report. I'm hoping for, rebuild stats, commercial rebuild, any significant projects that have occurred since September 8th of 2020. And it's not urgent, but it would be nice to have a nice substantial report on that. The other thing too, is I want to say a shout out to our finance department. A lot of jurisdictions are really struggling right now to keep up with their audits. Some of our neighbors are 3 audits behind, and we've just done an outstanding job managing our finances in this community. And shifting from, recovery dollars to sensible spending again. And I just really want to point out we seem to be in really great shape, and it's really so much financial management from Tessa, and also some of your experience showing up at budget time. Just want to thank you for that, and give you some kudos for that. And if you'll pass that on to Tessa, that would be really great.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. Approval, item 7.2, 7.1 and 2 is the financial statement, May of 2024, and approval of July 2024 check register report. Anybody have any questions or comments about that? This is that financial statement I think Tessa mentioned not long ago. We were going to get. Any comments or question? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Counselor Perry Miller.
I move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 8.1 is rejection of proposals for water meter replacement project and the reissue of the RFP. Staff report.
Mayor, members of the council, first I want to apologize. My voice is still a bit hoarse from my bout with COVID, but doing much better.
Sounding better too.
Hopefully we'll avoid a coughing spell. So in December 2023, the city initiated the process of authorizing a request for proposals for the purchase of a new water meter system for the city. The goal was to replace the city's aging water meter system with an automated remote read system that would enable the city staff to obtain real-time information on the status of every metered account in the city. This would not only increase efficiency by providing remote reading, monitoring, and turn-ons, but would improve customer service and enable potential leak detection and monitoring. The city issued an RFP and 2 proposals were received and evaluated. The cost difference in the 2 proposals was substantial, with a proposal from Zenner at $448,499 and from Fowler at $909,474. These proposals for the replacement of all 2,171 water meters. Following a bidding process, staff recommended and the council approved entering into negotiations with Zenner to secure a contract for purchase and installation of an automated metering system. AMI, also known as a radio read system. And to possibly add on the installation service. During the course of these negotiations, staff learned that installation and maintenance of the mesh system that supports the radio read is more complex than initially understood. Staff also learned more about alternatives, including a system which is cellular based, rather than a system that would involve installing city-owned and maintained radio. Additionally, staff learned that not all meters need to be replaced at one time, that about 900 heavily used meters and older could be replaced now, with the remaining meters retained with a new radio read attachment for replacement over time. In Talent, we have a relatively small area with good cell coverage. If we choose the cellular option, the company will also conduct a study on coverage before any installations are made. I've included in the staff report some discussion of the cellular and mesh AMI systems and some brief comparison of battery-powered water meters versus mechanical meters. I've noted here that Public Works Director has evaluated the meter alternatives and has conferred with meter manufacturers. A new RFP would a new RFP would invite proposals from distributors of multiple meter types, automated reading, and installation schedules. Finally, staff encountered difficulty working with the selected contractor representatives in the timely production of an acceptable agreement. At this time, staff recommends that the city exercise its right under section 5.3.10 of the RFP, which authorizes the city to reject any proposals to terminate the process if it's in the best interest of the city. A new RFP would include the options of having meter provider perform the initial system-wide installation, would invite meter options including mechanical meters, battery operator meters, and both owned and cellular-based remote reading systems. The city has retained consulting services to assist in the preparation of the RFP. We believe a new RFP can be developed and issued within 30 days, with proposals to be received by the end of June. The city has allocated $650,000 in ARPA funding for this project, and the city must have a vendor under contract by January 31st of 2025. Staff recommends that the city council reject all proposals and submittals received for the automated meter infrastructure project and issue a new RFP for acquisition of remote read water meter reading system with alternate proposals for system installation and meter types. And you have there the recommended motion.
Any questions, Councilor Penamara?
Yeah, first of all, I want to say I really appreciate the way staff has been able to just act nimbly in this sense and get out of a situation that wasn't as good as it could have been. I just wanted to ask about the ARPA funding and the deadline of January 2025. Is that because that's just because it is ARPA funding and all of those dollars have to be out committed basically?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just, if it's less than $650,000, there's another.
We have some other projects, particularly in parks, that could move up into that space.
Okay, that's great, because I do like the idea of doing half of it and then the other half later. Anyway, I was really impressed when I read this. It sounded like a really thoughtful approach, so I just want to commend you and Guy for that.
Any other questions? I just want to ask a question about the motion. So the motion is to reject all proposals and submittals received for the automated meter infrastructure project. Is that So we don't need a motion to reconsider the previous motion. This motion will,
No, this motion would take care of.
okay. All right. So with that, I'll entertain a motion. Counselor Byers,
I move to reject all proposals and submittals received for the automated meter infrastructure project and authorize staff to issue a new RFP for acquisition of a remote read water meter reading system with alternate proposals for system installation and meter types.
we have a motion and a second to reject all proposals and submittals received for the automated meter infrastructure project and authorize staff to issue a new RFP for acquisition of remote read water meter reading systems with alternate proposals for system installation and meter types. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Please extend our gratitude to Goying too for rooting out perhaps a better approach on this.
We're hopeful.
What's that?
We're hopeful.
Yes, yes, indeed. My perhaps being the key word. All right. The next item on the agenda is 9.1, the Urban Forestry Committee recommendation of Citizen Science Project. Staff report?
Mayor and members of the council, at its meeting of August 28th, the Talent Urban Forestry Committee voted to recommend to the city council that the nonprofit organization, Our Community Forestry, take over financial responsibility for the Citizen Science Project. That a letter be drafted by Councilor Collet in support of the Our Community Forestry grant proposal for a continuation of the Citizen Science Project, and that the city council approve the placement of air quality sensors on city property. Staff is advised that items 1 and 2 require action by the city council at this meeting, as the grant application deadline is September 18th. This request was received the day of the distribution of the council packet. And as such, the staff did not have an opportunity to fully vet the request before the packet went out. We did add some comments. One is that the City of Talent never assumed financial responsibility for the Citizen Science Project, so no action is needed, as it appears that the project is already being managed by our community forestry. Councilor Collet has clarified that the intent of this motion was to make it clear that this project is being managed independently and entirely by our community forestry. City staff has not received the grant proposal, so we have had no opportunity to review the proposal itself. And authorization for placement of air quality sensors on city property can be authorized by city staff. Staff would request a list of locations. If the sensors are to be maintained by our community forestry, that organization would need to obtain a park facility use permit and provide the city with a certificate of insurance, as would be required of any other organization conducting an activity on city property. We had no recommendation in the matter. However, over the weekend, I had an opportunity to review the letter that was prepared by Councilor Collet, and I prepared a alternative letter that's in support of the project for your consideration, and distributed it to the city council.
Great. I just have a couple of kind of procedural things that I want to mention. And this is really for the record, and I want to also, I'll pass this on to the chair or the liaison when I have an opportunity to do that. In the minutes that are apparently not quite adopted yet by Talent Urban Forestry, if you'll see page 24 in the packet, The motion is that Wing moves to recommend to have our CF take over financial responsibility for the citizen science project and to authorize Colay to draft a proposed letter of support for the grant proposal for this project by our CF. While it's kind of hard sometimes to just track the steps of a recommending body, I think it's important to just say at this time that that recommendation is headed for the council. So like all recommendations come to the council level, and we have an opportunity to decide whether or not we want to ratify that recommendation. And so we haven't even had that recommendation come before us at this time. So it's very specific that, and again, I want to, I'll relay this to the chair, but it specifically seeks our approval to offer Colay the authority to write that letter. And the minutes haven't been approved yet, and that authority hasn't been provided to Colay. So with that, we're still in the same place, but I definitely, it's an important step that we need to start recognizing that our recommending bodies have the authority to make recommendations to the council, and the council then decides based on their deliberation. But we're still in the same place where we have a proposed letter by Councilor Colay and a proposed letter by the city manager. And so with that, I would take any comments that any of the council may have. Councilor Penamara?
Yeah, so the first question is the difference between the two letters. I read them both and it looked like the second letter had reorganized it a little bit. Was there anything substantive that was different from the second letter that we should be aware of?
I think the second letter focused on support for the project and did not make a recommendation on the
Organization?
nonprofit to be the one selected to conduct. But to recognize that the nonprofit would be conducting the project, but it's not endorsing the nonprofit.
Can I ask?
Councilor Penamara?
So is this, I would just want to know, is this a competitive grant? Or is it just, I don't know if that's a question for Mike. Can Mike come to the?
Yep.
To answer questions?
Yep. If you'll state your name and city for the record.
Mike Oxendine, and I live here in Talent. Yeah, it's a competitive grant. It's through the Center for Regenerative Solutions. And Talent's part of this grant, if I receive it, would be a fairly small portion of it. And the remaining part of the grant is to monitor for heat island effects in vulnerable and disadvantaged communities throughout Jackson County, not just in Talent. But this grant opportunity came up kind of rapidly and had a very short window to apply for, and just happened to like perfectly align with the objectives of the Talent Citizen Science Project. And the Urban Forestry Committee was under the impression that the city was not interested in taking on any additional grants at this time. And so had requested that my organization, Our Community Forestry, go after these grants so that we could support this project in Talent through grant funding that otherwise probably wouldn't be available to move this forward.
Yes, Councilor Penamara.
So the letter as it was rewritten, does it still do the job as far as helping the city helping you get the grant to do this work?
Yeah, I think mainly what is needed is a fairly non-committal letter of support, general support for this project, so that the people reviewing this grant see that the city is behind it, and the purpose of the grant. So yeah, I think it'll achieve it. Thanks for asking.
I have a couple questions. You said the city has a small part in the grant. I don't see that, I don't see that described anywhere in either the motion or any of the letters. Can you tell me what that is?
Yeah, the Talent Citizen Science Project is $29,000 is the estimated budget to install the heat sensors and the air quality sensors. That's 20 sensors throughout the city, half of them in the fire impacted area and half of them in neighborhoods that weren't impacted by the fire. The rest of the grant would support that work as well through internship development through local high school and college students who would be the ones that are actually out monitoring and collecting the data off of those data loggers. And they'll actually learn how to install them. And they won't just be putting them in town, they'll also be putting them in other areas.
Let me clarify my question.
Yeah.
So the city being the municipality
Yeah.
of Talent, the municipality of Talent. I got the impression from what you just said that you believe that the municipality has a small part in this project. Did I understand you correctly or not?
No, I think that the City of Talents, when I say the City of Talent, I mean the community of talents, not the City of Talent as an agency.
Okay,
The community of talent has a small part of this project. The grant overall grant is for $220,000 a year for 3 years. And 29,000 total of that money would be dedicated to the Talent Citizen Science Project.
okay, great. And the other thing I wanted to ask you is you said that Talent Urban Forestry Committee approached you and asked you to file this. Can you tell me a little bit about that request?
Yeah, I attend the Talent Urban Forestry Committee meetings. And like I stated, the understanding of the committee through whatever reason is that the city doesn't have the capacity right now to manage additional grants and had been informed that the city was not at a place where they could manage another grant like this. Otherwise, the city Urban Forestry Committee was very interested in trying to apply for a grant specifically just for this project with a different granting agency. Feeling like that wasn't going to happen, the alternative was this grant came up that I told them about at the beginning of one of the meetings on non-agenda items. And they jumped at that opportunity and said, we would like you to try and incorporate Talent's portion of this into that.
Great.
Grant, that larger grant.
Mike, I want to say something for the record, and I want to make it clear before I do that that like what the staff letter says, I support the project and support providing a letter for the grant application that you're describing. But what is important to state on the record at this point in time is that officially Talent Urban Forestry Committee doesn't have the authority to make such a request, certainly not on behalf of the city. And so while I don't think that this encumbers our ability to move forward with a letter like the one that is written by the city manager, I just want to make that clear and I want to state it for the record. Because there are issues that can arise if there's a misunderstanding about kind of the process and the steps of how it is that city engages in these types of grants. I think it's an opinion, perhaps even a erroneous opinion, that the city doesn't have the capacity to manage grants. We're receiving millions of dollars in grants. It's just that the council prioritizes what those grants are. And so there is a misstep here. And I want to say that for the record, because I think it informs a little bit about how we are able to move forward with a letter that supports this project. To that end, it's just a clarifying point, and I'm literally saying it more for the record than anything else, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I don't think that the Urban Forestry Committee intended to have any missteps. I think that they are trying to do it the correct way and bring it to city council. And I think that's why I'm here tonight. And that's why it's for you all.
Yeah.
Is to get the right approval for it.
Yeah, and I'll take an opportunity to talk about what the correct steps actually are. They are in the form of recommendations, they are in form of proposals, they're in form of all those things. And those coming from the Urban Forestry Committee to the council so that we can consider the matter and make a decision. So that's different than what's actually happening here. And it's, again, I just want to make it clear, like from my view, this stuff is hard. These steps are hard to track, and it's easy to get off track, but it's going to be really important, particularly in this scenario, for us to be clearly on track and to make it really clear what our relationship is in this and what it's not as a city. So I'm just stating that for the record. But again, I think we're left in the same place. I just wanted to make that point. Are there any other Councilor Byers?
Yeah, Gary, I appreciated the redrafting of this letter. That makes it very clear that this is the project of a nonprofit that the city is writing a letter in support of, as opposed to writing a letter in support of a city project or a commission project. I would ask if we perhaps could add a little bit of language in here, again, identifying the members of the Urban Forestry Committee and their time spent working on this project as dedicated volunteers of the nonprofit, with any work that they take moving forward on this, especially expert volunteers. I think it's valuable. I think it's important, but I also think it's important from a risk management from the city's perspective to clearly delineate that role.
So if we approve the letter tonight, and it was that we approved the staff letter with those amendments, we would just approve the letter as amended, knowing that you would make those statements.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll craft something to incorporate, the letter on that point.
Thank you. And I think this is a really wonderful project to be happening in Talent. I'm glad we can provide a letter of support for the project.
Agreed. As the letter states as well.
Yes.
So for the record, since Mike hasn't seen the letter and the audience hasn't seen the letter, let's go ahead and read the letter into the record. I'll take it up if nobody minds. We already have the one letter on the record. I'll read this letter and then you guys can make a decision about which of the letters you want to approve. The purpose of this letter is to express support of the City of Talent for funding 2 community science projects, both to be conducted by the nonprofit organization Our Community Forestry under the name Talent Urban Forest Community Science Monitoring Projects. 1, air quality monitoring. This project will track the effect of tree growth on air quality over time, illustrating how trees improve air quality and reduce local air pollution. Number 2, temperature monitoring. This project will observe the impact of trees on ambient temperatures, showcasing how trees provide cooler conditions and mitigate urban heat islands. These projects aim to demonstrate the benefit and value of a healthy, resilient urban environment. The project will not only enhance livable and healthy environments for people and wildlife in Talent, but it will also serve as a valuable resource for other communities looking to increase canopy coverage or recover from natural disasters. Background: since 2019, the City of Talent, through the Talent Urban Forestry Committee, has worked diligently to establish a citywide resilient and flourishing tree canopy that nurtures the community, people, and wildlife. The devastating Alameda wildfire in September of 2020, which destroyed over a third of the city, resulted in the loss of 25.6% of our tree canopy, has only strengthened our commitment to reestablishing trees within the burn scar and enhancing our community values of equity, resiliency, ecology, and community. In the fall of 2023, a strategic partnership was formed to develop community science monitoring projects aimed at measuring the outcomes of Talent's reforestation efforts. Partners in this collaborative effort include the nonprofit Our Community Forestry, the American Geophysical Union, AGU, Thriving Exchange Program, a Science from the U.S. Forestry Service, and planners from the National Park Service Rivers Trails and Conservation Assistance Program. The Talent Urban Forestry Committee has been active throughout this entire collaborative process, which has led to the development of the locally led Community Science Initiative process. Going forward, the talent-based nonprofit organization, Our Community Forestry, has stepped forward to continue this collaborative effort and is seeking grant funding from a variety of public and private sources to undertake this project. According to Our Community Forestry, the project raw data and analysis will be open source and publicly available. The City of Talent is pleased to support this effort and urge grant funding agencies to support Our Community Forestry's application for the funding of the Talent Urban Forestry Community Science Monitoring projects. Thank you for considering your support. Thank you for considering our support for this project. Sincerely. And then honestly, either way, I think the additional language would go on either of the letters. Councilor Panamas, do you have a question? Any further discussion? Any further questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I move to authorize the letter written by staff in support of the Talent Urban Forest Community Science Monitoring Projects as amended.
Second.
What page? Oh, did you?
But this is where I got the full name. The letter-
Yeah, I have the letter. Just where did you get the full name? Top or bottom?
The top,
Okay.
yeah, the top
Non-
paragraph.
Urban, okay. So we have a motion and a second to authorize the staff to,
The letter written by staff.
the letter written by staff, to authorize the letter written by staff as amended. Is there any further discussion? Did I get the crux of your?
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mike? You can have my copy of the letter. Just so you can, just know that it will be amended and this will give you a chance to look it over too. Okay? You bet.
Good luck.
Thank you, Mike. This sounds like a great project. Good luck. The next item on the agenda is item 9. Yep,
Before we leave,
Council Panomer?
Yeah, I just wanted to get the letter taken care of because I had some questions about the placement of the.
You want Mike to come back up? Did he
Yeah,
leave?
the left.
Oh, okay, that's all right. Sorry. Do you want to check with him later?
No, I just wanted to, it was really a question for Gary about the, so part of this involves placement of these on staff property, on city property. And you said that staff could authorize that and would authorize that, assuming that the insurance coverage, all those things have been taken care of. So I just wanted to clarify with you that you don't need any direction, from this council on that. That's great. That was all.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Next item is 9.2, update on the master plan, Parks Master Plan. Staff report? Gonna hand that over to, head that towards Hector if I could.
Mayor and members of the council, the Parks and Recreation Commission has been working on updating the Parks Master Plan since the spring of 2024. At their recent meeting on August 14th, the commission recommended, that the city council consider adopting the proposed changes to the Chuck Roberts Park master plan, as detailed in the attached map. The recommendation includes a condition that adjustments be made to the fencing for the large dog area to ensure it aligns with the existing trail and landscape of Chuck Roberts Park. So there's a recommended motion to adopt the Talent Parks Master Plan for Chuck Roberts Park to reflect the changes as developed at the March 13th, 2024 special session of the Parks and Recreation Commission. and the accompanying map drawing. With the amendment that the large dog park is designed to work within the existing landscaping walking path. And there's an attachment showing the master plan areas where the activities at the park would be located. And I'll have to defer to the council liaison for anything further, because I did not attend.
Okay, great. Are there any questions or comments? Counselor Byers?
Sure. First, just a little note and explaining the additional language about the amended dog area, large dog park. It's standard practice amongst design standards for large dog parks for them to be an acre large, if not larger. Gao Ying has been amazing, and I know that she is catching up on all of the meetings that happened before this. But originally, this large dog park was drawn to be 0.83 acres in order for it to fit within those walking paths, because so many community members value being able to use those paths. In order to bring it up to standard practice, Gao Ying redrew this at an acre instead of the 0.83 acres. This was discussed in the park, the last parks meeting, and that is what the amendment is referring to, taking it back down to 0.83 acres. I will also say that the Parks Commission has had numerous thoughtful discussions about this. And went above and beyond in accommodating public input and testimony at the last meeting. Even though we did not have an official public hearing, we had a hearing in everything but noticing, which was fantastic. I would also recommend that because we have spoken about this on the record for a number of months now, that we as a council also wait to make a decision on this until we are also able to hold a public hearing. I know that there's still a lot of community input out there, and in efforts to be abundantly transparent, I think it would be a great idea to hold that time and space for folks to come and give their input, and to also ask questions should there be any in the lead up.
Any questions or comments? Counselor Perry Miller?
Yeah, I think that sounds like a wonderful idea, especially because I know there was a little glitch in the noticing of the parks public hearing actually being a hearing, so I can't imagine why it wouldn't be extra wonderful for us to hold space for that. So I think that's a great idea. I did have a question just about what you said about this large dog park. So this is 1 acre. And you said that that this is the final version of this, or is it going to be slightly smaller? Because I thought you said Gao Ying may have done a slight redesign.
So the original, as envisioned in the special session from March 2024, was 0.83 acres, slightly smaller, so that it fit within the confines of the trail. Ted? Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. So 0.87, but this here says 1 acre. To get it to fit within the walking paths, it needs to be that 0.87 acres.
Counselor Penamroth?
I'm sorry, I don't see the difference between the two maps except for the annotation.
There isn't a difference.
Okay, good.
I don't know why there are.
Okay. I was
They're
trying
together.
to.
Yeah. No, I'm drawing from memory right now, as opposed to a visual.
We don't. Ted, we don't have any speaker request forms from you, so. Yeah. But if we have questions, we'll call you forward as the chair. So I just want to, I first want to let you know that. And if you, if you're available for questions, that would be great. I appreciate the comments you're making, Counselor Byers, about a public hearing. It was what, one of the things I asked for when we first started this project is that I remember a couple of things. One is that we approach the amendment to the master plan holistically on this park. And I did get a chance to listen in on a couple of the meetings, or either I attended one and then I was listening to recordings after the fact. And I have to say, Parks did a phenomenal job on this project. And I'm excited for what looks like a very cohesive and thoughtful opportunity for us to amend the Chuck Roberts Park and add some amenities that I know our community will be excited about. But I also know that some of it's controversial. And that I've had neighbors reach out to me about some of the controversy issues, which I suspected a little bit of that at the time, and is why I asked very specifically for a public hearing. So I support and I appreciate that that's coming up. If the council decides to do a public hearing, which I hope and encourage that we do, can we do some additional outreach, Facebook posts? I city's doing a really good job with the Facebook posts. People are really following it. Gives us also an opportunity to kind of push the message out from there. From an official standpoint, we can push it out to some of our networks as well.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that everybody really knows we're about to do this major amendment to our Parks Master Plan. So that they can appear before us and give us comments and feedback before we make this change. Would we be able to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay, Councilor Penamara?
I'm wondering also maybe like an open house. Where we could just have this room and have some pictures up and have people there to explain what the amendment's about, and to just kind of, you could gather feedback, but mostly it would be kind of a low stress chance for folks to get their questions answered before something as formal as a public hearing.
I love that idea. I'm less inclined to do a special meeting for it, but I do think having a presentation on this proposal as part of a regular agenda would be a really great part of the public hearing.
I agree with that, but what I was suggesting is something that's like, you could just like an open house, like you could just drop in, see what's up, see if you cared enough to put in some testimony from the residents' point of view.
I see. So it would not be instead of meeting, it would be in
Right.
addition to meeting. Gotcha. Yeah.
Be informational, and I think for some folks who might, just, could satisfy a lot of curiosity, and people could just email in.
Yeah, once they have a grasp and could ask the questions they wanted, they then would be able to testify in the public hearing.
My thinking is that, there'll be changes, and people are like, oh, I don't know what's going on, but it's a big lift for people, especially with kids, to like come to a public hearing and testify.
Yeah. I appreciate that. It broadens the scope. Counselor Byers?
Maybe this isn't usually done, I'm not sure, but in support of that, how about an FAQ sheet for this on the website, a PDF that people can navigate to on their own and open it up? I bet that the Parks Chair would be really familiar with the most frequently asked questions. And I'm happy to weigh in as well from what I've experienced.
I love that idea. If we can support staff in providing it,
Exactly.
and if it doesn't prolong the process.
Right, no, I mean, if it's helpful and, you can do that.
Well, great. I know that I've gotten some questions regarding, of course, the pickleball courts and then also funding. So I know that those are questions that we need to be prepared for answering. Just what the long-term funding is going to look like by people who have been very diligent about watching how we are spending our money right now. So
May I
Counselor Byers?
say something to that? So I do think a question that came up, if I'm remembering correctly, a couple times in the last Parks meeting was the question of what is going to happen when. And so the Parks Chair had a great opportunity and did a really excellent job of describing, this also came up in discussion amongst commissioners, but describing the prioritization process that has been going on for years by the Parks Commission of the projects, how we gathered community input for which to prioritize, and putting together a bit of a timeline for some of the most pressing requests, including the tennis pickleball courts and, well, this is not part of Chuck Roberts. The question of the skate park always arises. And so I think in general, perhaps part of this information sharing, we should be prepared to speak holistically about park amenities throughout the city instead of just Chuck Roberts. And there is so much good work that's happened at the Parks Commission in addressing a lot of these community desires.
Great.
There's a lot of info to share.
Does that sound like something we can prepare in?
I'd like to
Mhm.
meet with Councilor Byers and make sure I have my
Mhm. Sure.
record on that. I do have one question.
Mhm.
Councilor Byers, do you recall, I'm assuming that the large dog park would be fenced.
Yes.
Would the fence be recessed back from the paths?
Yes.
Essentially leaving the walking paths intact is
Yes.
the point, right? I like that. That's awesome. You guys were thoughtful. Dave?
If I can jump ahead of a comment I think you're you're going to make, asking me about dog leashes.
Yeah.
I think now might be a good time for me to get a little insight into how you and the chair of the commission want to handle that. And embarrassingly, a long time ago, the council had directed me to come up with an ordinance for the council to consider
Mhm.
regarding some changes that might, if the council approved, allow dogs on leashes in the parks. And there was a question at the time whether that would be just for Chuck Roberts or for all parks.
Mhm.
I have looked at the changes that I think would need to be made in two provisions, the 12.05.150 and .160. But I don't know whether that should, I could come back with some ordinance suggestions the next meeting or the following one.
Mhm.
But I don't know whether that instead that somehow fits into this master plan discussion, particularly if we're talking about all parks.
I would invite the council to relax the rules to allow the Parks Chair to weigh in
Yeah,
on this.
yep. If you want to come up,
And
I
Ted,
don't think we're relaxing rules on this.
okay.
Yeah,
And Ted, please help me remember, but I was thinking this was only for Chuck Roberts Park, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Parks Commission put forward 2 recommendations to City Council, one of which was approved, and that was for dogs on leashes on the paths in Chuck Roberts Park, based on the work of many volunteers and survey results and community input.
And I'm remembering it's not necessarily a part of the master plan revising, it is a separate thing, right?
The 2 recommendations that the Parks Commission gave to City Council was one for the ordinance change for the paths in Chuck Roberts Park. And the second was to build a large dog park, which kind of was part of the request from the mayor to kind of consider the master plan of Chuck Roberts as a whole, based on multiple, priorities that were already written into the master plan, and then other community interests that came forward to the Parks Commission.
Is that helpful?
Yes, then I would take that as a sort of direction to come back apart from the master plan and just come back with some proposed language changes for the, from those two ordinance provisions. But I would hope I can get just a minute with you after the meeting and make sure the language that I'm thinking of is in conformance with what the Parks Commission was thinking. And maybe if you could join us for 2 minutes afterwards,
Sure.
we could get
Thanks,
this
Dave.
resolved pretty quickly.
And then procedurally, what that would look like then is you would propose language that would go to the parks. Parks would make a recommendation to us. If they approve the language, make a recommendation to us approving or amending or whatever before it comes here. So it'll go to you guys first. In case you want to amend it, in case you want to, add to it or it doesn't hit the mark or whatever. So and that would be the procedure.
As you wish. I don't know. I don't know the procedures.
It's
so-
not how I wish, it's just how it's designed, but I just want to point that out.
Yeah.
So you guys will get a first bite at the apple.
It's good to know what to look for.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. All right, thank you, Dave. Are there any other questions?
Just procedurally, if we want to hold off on this, do we have to postpone this or can we just not act on it or?
I think we just not act on it, right? Or we should probably move to postpone.
Do we need a date certain? Sorry.
Do we need a date certain?
No.
Yeah, but just for the record, we want this to come back at the earliest point.
My understanding is that you want to hold action on this until there is perhaps a community process, which would include a public hearing and a possible. And then we would place it back on the agenda. Or would we take the information gathered from that hearing back to the planning or back? No.
No.
So it would come back here.
Counselor Byers?
Procedurally, would this be two motions, one to direct staff to hold a public hearing and one to postpone this topic until after the public hearing is held?
I think you can just do it with one.
Okay, great. Then I'm ready with the motion.
Counselor Byers?
I move to direct staff to hold a public hearing on the topic of the update to the parks master plan, specifically for Chuck Roberts Park, and to revisit the Parks and Recreation Commission recommendation to update said master plan after the public hearing is held.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to direct staff to prepare a public hearing and revisit the Parks Master Plan for the Parks recommendation. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I want to thank you, Counselor Byers, for remembering and upholding the need for public hearing. I think the community will be grateful that we were careful with such a large amendment. All right. Item number 9.3 is the PUC letter. So I was approached after a community group meeting to write a letter to the PUC Public Utilities Commission regarding our residents' concerns about the power outages over the summer. And I'm happy to do that, but I think that it would be more powerful for me to write that letter on behalf of the council. And so I'm asking for council authorization to write a letter that essentially would just describe the residents' experiences as stated by residents. And this community's hope that, I would probably also state that the solution at hand is, has risks to our community, especially during triple digit weather. And then I would just conclude by encouraging the Public Utilities Commission to work very hard to find solutions that don't also threaten our community with during heat, triple digit heat. That would be the essence of the letter. I'd be happy to bring it back for approval if the council wishes to see it before approving it, but I'm just asking for authority. Council Perry Miller?
Thank you. I'm sure you would already do this, but also just to voice the experiences of our business community, which again, I'm sure that you would already include that, but I think that will also be really meaningful and has been very impactful.
Thank you for highlighting that. Counselor Byers?
On that note, similarly, we have a high percentage of senior citizens in our community who are particularly susceptible to heat. And we also have a large number of community members living in RVs, mobile homes, trailers, which are also less equipped to handle extreme temperatures. Two other demographics. to really
Housing
highlight.
types.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd be happy also to run this letter by staff, just to make sure that I'm not running afoul of any before it goes out. Any other comments? Can I get a motion? Counselor Penamara?
I move to authorize the mayor to write a letter to the PUC on behalf of the city.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to write, to authorize the mayor to write a letter to the PUC on behalf of the city. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So if it's on behalf of the city, I will definitely run it past the staff. Okay. The next item on the agenda is written communications. There are none. Let's see, where is other? Other has mysteriously. What's that?
No other today.
Well, that, I should have brought that up during, during corrections, but I am going to entertain, other, and I'm also going to entertain committee reports. So let's start with committee reports. Are there any committee reports? Yeah, they canceled the meeting for lack of business. Anybody else? Counselor Byers?
You've heard everything from Parks, but I do just want to put this out there. Because I'm speaking to the liaisons to all the committees and commissions, that should the committee or commission want to have a presence at the Harvest Festival, email me. There's no fee. It's just let me know so I can save the space for you. And please communicate that back to your chairs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Perry Miller?
TPAC just met yesterday. And sadly, our vice chair, Kathy Doris, has resigned from that position. So we're very sad. She's been a very long-standing member of TPAC. I want to say she's been on TPAC for more than 10 years, something. So TPAC will have an opening, and I think the chair just emailed Hector today. So anyways, that is something that's going to be advertised soon. And you know, it's a great committee, so hopefully we'll get lots of new applicants.
Any other committee reports? Gary, could I impose upon you to just give a quick brief about the rare participant from the City of Talent's perspective?
Sure, thank you. As you know, the City of Talent, in partnership with the Talent Business Alliance and Southern Oregon.
Travel Southern Oregon?
Travel Southern Oregon, have put together a proposal to have a rare participant based in Talent to assist in the development of some planning efforts revolving around visitation and visitor attraction. And we were able to I participated as well as Talent Business Alliance Travel Southern Oregon in a interview of candidates and a candidate invited to come to Talent and be have the Talent Business Alliance to undertake that project, and that candidate accepted the offer. Can't recall when that person is scheduled to begin work, but very impressive candidate. Where she's coming from the Midwest. And has some a good small town experience. And we're just looking forward to working with her.
Very exciting opportunity. Thank you, Gary. That was a great report. Yeah, and for me also, planning is canceled and there are no other committee reports. Let's move on to other business. Is there any other business? Counselor Perry Miller?
Well, I just wanted to say here that I'm planning to attend the Pacific Power Town Hall next Wednesday. And I wasn't sure if anyone else was, but if we had a quorum, we should probably notice it. And I'm just planning to go and listen. I'm not gonna say anything, but well, I don't know. I might say something, but I wasn't sure if anyone else was planning to go. And I'm really, okay. well, I think it's gonna be great. I'm looking forward to it.
Appreciate that. I got a phone call from Senator Golden today. I'm going to be out of town and he asked me to ask a council member to attend. So
Oh,
that's,
just to attend.
yes,
Okay.
that's fulfilled. And then also I checked in with Gary last night about it to see if he could attend as well. And he's checking his schedule, but if you can, it's
Yeah, I'm fine.
okay. So I think that's a great contingent from the community, but I wouldn't discourage anybody else from going either. So Hector, I guess we'd ask you if we have any concerns about a quorum. Is anybody else planning to go?
I can't.
Okay, so it sounds to me like we won't have a quorum. All right, thank you. But if it changes, please let Hector know so we can just notice it as an abundance of caution. All right, any other, Council Penamara?
Yeah, speaking of quorum, we get a quorum to go to the League of Oregon Cities.
I'm fairly certain I'm gonna go. I just have a procedure that I'm trying to arrange a schedule for. And I should let you know by tomorrow, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna go. Yeah. And you're going? Council Pastizo, not going. You're going?
I think I'm going. One thing I noticed looking, I was trying to register and there's so many things. There's like, you could come late. They have it set up so you could kind of come late on the morning or you could come the night before. You could stay for the Saturday or not stay for the Saturday, right? So since I wanted to coordinate carpooling, with someone, I didn't want to sign up for things. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to get a sense of what other folks wanted to do before I signed up.
Well, I would, if we can carpool together and I would just accommodate whatever, yeah, we can agree upon what we're gonna do.
Agree,
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And Gary, were you gonna be able to make it or not?
I'm not gonna be able to make it. But everything needs to get out.
Okay, so it's just you and me are the only ones, because you guys aren't gonna go.
What's the date?
The 14th and the 15th, is it?
Of this
Yeah,
month?
I want to say that October,
Oh,
it's in October, it's in Bend.
is it a weekend?
Starts on a Thursday.
Yeah.
goes through Saturday.
17, 18, and 19, but the way they've set it up, you could like drive up on the 17th, get there midday, and then like leave Saturday morning. I don't think you have to stay.
That's okay. Thank you for the invite. You guys will
Okay,
represent.
well, if
me.
anybody else changes their mind, why don't we confirm tomorrow, Eleanor, and then we can let Gary know to make reservations or not.
Yeah, I think we have till, there's a date when the price goes up, but I don't think that's this week.
I haven't been trying.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
yeah.
we'll let you know in a day or two, just so we can coordinate that exactly. All right. That's it for other. So if there's nothing else, I'm going to adjourn this meeting at 8:35. And would you please, I should have said it earlier on the record, but please send our gratitude to Parks. You guys did really a great job with this. Yeah, it's just been, I know, people like it, you did all right. You did all the right stuff.
Yeah,